feel like this is worth re-referencing semi-frequently, because there's always kind of in ebb and flow of who's watching these daily check-ins. I certainly wouldn't expect everybody to watch every single freaking one. That'd be kind of crazy. So when it comes to bulking in general, let's get a baseline bullet point list of, let's just call it the do's and don'ts. Let's just say the do's and don'ts or so. Do eat a gram of protein per however many pounds that you weigh, semi-lean. If you're a 300-pound guy, but you could probably stand to lose 100 pounds and get down to like a 200 pounds lean-ish, like 10-15% body fat, well then, don't eat 300 grams of protein. You'd be good with 200, right? So, kind of estimate your 10 to 12 or 10 to 15% body fat weight, and then convert that to grams. That's a solid protein intake. Basic, get it from quality sources, aka beefs, aka eggs, fish, poultry, chicken, turkey, tuna, sushi. Go get a freaking all-you-can-eat sashimi or whatever. That's going to be solid. Dairy, cheese gets a little funky because, beyond just straight milk, the processing of dairy kind of starts separating different proteins out. That's sort of the whole deal. Like when you, what is it? Is the gist you churn cream into butter, and then all of the proteins get kind of siphoned out into the water, and just the fats coagulate. It gets a little tricky, right? I'm not gonna, just because butter is dairy doesn't mean there's a lot of good protein in butter. That's just straight fats. But solid protein source, adequate amount per day, good. Bullet point number 1. Bullet point number 2, and these are kind of, these are sort of the most important ones I could describe first, but it's not in super specific order. Bullet point number 2, are you actually training, right? Are you actually lifting like a freak, trying to get after it? And I don't mean, are you doing a million freaking pounds? When I say training like a freak, what I really mean is, do you have a 5-day-a-week routine that you do consistently? If the answer is yes, you're ahead of the game. 80% of people don't even care about the gym. 15% of people, or a smaller percent of people, just come into the gym for general, health activities, just because everybody should hit the gym, right? And it's not to say that you beat them because you're going harder, because all they're doing is aiming for maintenance and baseline activity. That's a little bit different. Like don't feel cool because you're repping 315 next to somebody's grandma who's just doing the elliptical. We get the gist there. But are you lifting really consistently, and are you actually bringing it? Are you trying to get stronger? Okay, yes, solid. Now comes the tricky part. Now comes the part that's a little bit more tedious, because I think everybody can, for the most part, anybody who's in the gym, those are pretty much baseline. That's kind of the bar. Eat your protein, workout, solid. I think the part that gets a little more annoying and just kind of tedious and kind of feels a little more like homework rather than a field day is when I say, all right, now, are you tracking your fats? Are you tracking your carbs? Do you know how many calories you're eating per day? And in tandem with that, are you weighing yourself every morning so that you can actually track whether or not you're growing, stagnating, losing weight if you're trying to diet down? And those two things, I think, are probably the biggest indicators of what's really going on. Because if okay, I've been stuck at 240. This is going to be me, probably going forward over these next few weeks, or maybe not a few weeks, but months or so. I've had situations where for 2 weeks straight, I'm getting on the scale every morning, 255.1, 255.5, 245, 255, 249, 240, or 254.9. I'm just right at that 255 bar for like 2 weeks straight. And I'm eating as much as I can. Like I feel like I'm really grubbing. You know, I'm hitting like a consistent, whatever 1,000 calories that I'm doing. But if the scale is reading the same weight, my weight's not changing, I'm not growing, then what does that mean? You know, that means I got to eat more freaking food. That means I got to up my calorie intake so that I can actually push the needle and watch the scale change a little bit more. Now that's, you know, when you're really plateaued to the point of, dude, I can't freaking eat anymore. Like if I really push this off season or this bulk in however many months, at the end of it, I'm basically gonna come to the conclusion, no, dude, I can't eat any more food. And if I can't eat any more food, I can't keep growing. We gotta cut it off. Boom. Switch to a diet phase, repeat the process. But on the way to that end state of, dude, I can't eat any more food, is just incremental increases in calories, incremental increases in mainly carbs. Like I'm not trying to, actually I want to keep my fat intake moderate. You know, I'm eating 250 grams of protein. I don't really want to eat more than 100 grams of fats per day. It's just not going to help me. You're not going to feel carved up from eating a bunch of fats. You know, I'm trying to just push my carbs higher and higher and higher. So over the course of now until 3 months from now, what I'm going to do is train. Right? We got that down. I'm going to get my protein in solid. I'm going to track my calories, make sure I'm at a steady whatever I'm at. I'm kind of bouncing around like 30. I've been doing like 3,300-ish, and that's been keeping me around just about 240 or so. I had a few days where I was really eating, like 5,000-6,000 calories just because I was hungry. I'm like, dude, I want to eat some food. We're done with this dieting phase now. But going forward over these, basically over the last couple of days, and then, now indefinitely, I'm going to keep it around a 3,300-ish. If I eat a little more, it's not a problem. I am trying to grow, but I want to ease into it. So for me to eat, let's just say 3,300 calories right now, which is about 800 calories more than I was eating when I was trying to lose body fat. Well, now I'm up at, this 239, 240-ish. I'm going to keep watching the scale and see what happens. So if for the next 2 weeks I keep eating the same 3,300 and my weight stays the same, and I keep just weighing in 239, 239.5, 239, 240, 238, whoa, 240 again, as long as that kind of up and down day by day is still right at that 240 mark and it's kind of just flat, what am I going to do? And I think that's what stumps a lot of people, or a lot of lifters. Even if they're not counting their calories, they think they're eating a lot of food. So take a guy, he thinks he's really grubbing and he's bulking, he's trying to grow. He keeps getting on the scale and the scale reads the same weight. So, I can understand it. If he really thinks he's eating a ton of food, but the scale isn't changing, what conclusion is he going to come to, He's probably just going to say, shit, man, I just can't grow. I'm a hard gainer, And that's a very comfortable, assumption to make, because it's, not the most accountable assumption. So what I would say is, the answer isn't you're a hard gainer. If anything, you might be a hard eater, and you just got to figure out how to get more freaking food down your throat, into your gullet, so that you can actually break it down, use it for energy, recover, over-recover, and then start growing. So what I'm going to say, or what I'm going to do is, okay, man, I've been at 240, I'm just not growing. It's been about 2 weeks. Increase my carb intake by 100 grams. So that's going to take me from 3,300 to 3,700. And 100 grams is actually kind of a chunk. But I would notice a weight gain, even just after a few days of doing that. But if I want to be really steady, maybe I should tone it back and say, I'm going to increase my carb intake by 50 grams. So I'm going to go from whatever, like 300, 400 something to 450. And then Now this is essentially like an experiment. If I eat 50 grams of carbs more per day, then I see what happens. I'm going to keep training. I'm going to keep, really bringing it, recovering well, keeping my hydration up, hitting my macros so that I'm averaging the same amount of food per day-ish, within reason, weighing myself every morning, tracking it on a little Google Sheets, and I'm going to watch, okay, all right, it's been 3 days of this extra 50 grams of carbs. Hell yeah, I just weighed in at 242. Sweet. And then I'm going to keep watching my weight over the course of the week. 242. 244. Holy crap, heavy day. 243. 243. 242.5. Oh, 245. Like, it'll really look like that. It does jump around. But when you kind of plot a trend on those data points, once I add those 50 grams of carbs in, and I actually consistently eat an extra 50 grams of carbs per day, I'm going to watch this trend point upward. But the whole, the problem which makes it a little bit tricky is you get used to it. So as I get larger, I'm going to burn more energy just from being alive and training. So even though for maybe 2 weeks, eating a certain amount of food might be enough to make me gain weight, eventually I'm going to kind of level off, and now that amount of food is just my maintenance. Like, that's just a normal amount of food. So if I want to keep growing, well, I'm going to have to increase it, right? So think about if you've ever had a puppy or a kitten. When they're a kitten, when they're little and they're very small, you don't feed them as much as you do when they're full grown, right? Because they don't need that much food yet. So you feed them, a little half cup in the morning, and then you start thinking, all right, yeah, he's getting big. Let's give him a full cup. Oh, holy crap, he used to be 10 pounds and now he's 40. All right, I guess now he's getting 2 cups per meal, or whatever. Like, do the math for whatever, size dog they are so that they don't get too big or they don't get malnourished. You know what you're doing. But, right, so that sort of logic still applies to you, even though you're not, doubling or tripling in weight like a puppy would into a full-grown dog. You're still trying to increase your weight by substantial percentage points. So if that's the case, you've got to increase your calorie intake, your energy input, by substantial percentage points. And it's very easy to say that, but to take somebody who's never tracked their calories before to now say, all right, every time you eat something, look up the nutrition facts, plug it into your phone, all right, sweet. And then another level of difficulty. Okay, well, you can't eat this because you've already hit your calorie goal, or whatever. And I get it, but that's the cost. That's the cost, and the reward is a bigger bench. The reward is bigger legs and bigger arms and a wider back, and freaking striated shoulders, at least, further in the future once you diet down and kind of reveal them, So it's just a cost reward calculation you got to make in your own head. And for me, that's a damn good deal. The difficulty of tracking my calories and, weighing myself and my cardio and everything else, in exchange for the progress that I'm going to make because of it, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. I'm not checking my wallet to see if I can handle that cost. If anything, that's a freaking discount, But you got to get used to it. And I feel like I've sort of been repeating myself a bit over the last few days, but it really is just, holy crap, what was I about to say? Oh yeah, it really is. The more you do it, the easier you get at it, or the easier it is for you, the better you get at it, and then it no longer even feels like a chore. When I track my macros, or if I go out to dinner and it's like, okay, 8-ounce steak, mashed potatoes, something or other. After you track your calories for long enough, you get a bit of a sense where you can look at this whole plate of food, and not even by looking at it, but also just by eating it and tasting it, and like, okay, how rich is this mashed potatoes? Oh yeah, they get a lot of butter in here. Shit, this whole bowl is probably 30 grams of fat, probably 35. Oh, plug in the 35. All right, yeah, that's probably about it's about 100 grams of carbs. 8-ounce steak, I'm probably looking at about 60 grams of protein right there. And even though that might not be a perfect estimation, it's still way better than not tracking it at all, So it's that's a skill that is underappreciated in terms of its development. We're always talking mind-muscle connection. We're never nobody's ever flexing how good of a calorie macro estimator they are. But I think that's almost more important. Okay, maybe not more important, but just as important. If you want to really push it. So if you're that kind of guy, all right, man. I've been 170 for a while. I can hit 225 for 3, but I want 225 for a full-on working set. At what point do you have to kind of realize, like, all right, if I really want to push it, I got to feed myself enough to fuel this training and over-recover and make this shit happen. So it's you kind of almost got to become your own freaking training-based nutritionist, which you'll get used to. It's not that hard. It seems hard in the beginning when you've never done it before, but just ease into it. So like I was saying back in these bullet points in the beginning, protein. Just start there. When I started working out back in high school, I never counted the gram of carbs or fats for probably 2 years. Maybe probably 2 years-ish. All I was doing was hitting my protein, eating as much food as I was hungry for, training hard, and that was it. So I was already, I was kind of extra active because I was doing my own workouts plus diving practices at the time. So it would be like, my own regular big ass, 20 set back day, and then an hour and a half of doing flips into the pool and swimming around. So for me at the time, my baseline hunger for food kept me pretty level in just like a gradual, growth phase. So I ate enough to grow, but I wasn't eating so much that I was bulking up or anything or really putting on size. But if you don't have an appetite that lets you eat enough to grow, you got to intervene, so you got to kind of overpower your stomach there. When guys say their eyes were bigger than their stomach, that's got to be you, right? You got to make that shit freaking happen. But now I'm really just getting into a ramble. We all get the gist. Eat enough to grow, make that shit happen. Just boiled down 10 minutes into 10 seconds. So plan for this morning with chest, powered by orange mango. I always say super savage, but I got a couple comments that said nobody says that, and they just call it super savage. Which I feel like kind of kills the joke. I'm going to keep saying super savage. But yeah, orange mango, I would recommend. I would highly recommend. And I think they have that flavor across the board from because I've got a stim-free tub and the, extra freaking, everything super savage tub. That's a good one if you've been looking for a little something or other. But yeah, plan's going to be some chest, probably a little calves. And when I say a little calves, all I mean is I'm going to get on the leg press and do 5 sets of 15 to 20 reps of calf raises with 4 or 5 plates. Actually, no, that's not true. When I'm strong, I'm doing 4 or 5 plates. Right now, I'm only doing 2 plates because it still feels really heavy. But just enough to really give them some activation. And that's kind of really the only way I've been training calves for kind of a long time. Just making sure I hit them, get a good pump to the point that they're at least burning. And they've developed reasonably well. But I'm going to up my calf game, at least in terms of my consistency. I haven't been hitting calves this whole dieting phase, except for, on occasion. So, but in terms of chest, I'll see how I feel. I'm not, I would like to jump in there, warm up, get my rotator cuffs ready, and then throw around the 150s. But I've got to ease into it. I've been getting, I've deprived some of you guys for a while from some heavy free weight based lifts. But I'm not just going to rip my rotator cuff into bits just for the sake of feeling cool doing incline dumbbell. I got to kind of work up to it because my shoulders have not been exposed to that much force for a while since I've been doing a lot more cable based work. But it'll come. Just give it some time. Just like squats, you know. Last leg day was 4 plates for 10 on the Smith, and the one before that, or I guess 2 before that, was 3 plates for 10. So the re-exposure to weight is happening fast, but I guess maybe not fast enough. Before you know it, we'll be back to some crazy lifts. So let's just focus on getting a crazy pump, easing myself into some hefty weights, and enjoy the freaking process. So let's get in there. I have warmed up shoulders, triceps, forearms, chest, a little bit in the cables. So let's start with 3 plates on this kind of converging incline chest press. So with this Arsenal one, you can either hold the bar or the handles here in this fashion, or like this. I'm going to start like this, and then we'll see how we want to move forward. All right. All right. Oh, shit. Let's throw a 25 on and do one more. All right, come on. Two. One more like that. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. All right, let's go do some cable. It feels good to move some weight around. This will just be some hand over hand, heavy-ish press. 170 would be like I'm putting my whole body weight, even being able to move the weight. But 130 is a bit more within reason. So hand over hand, and I know that kind of looks like it's going to get a lot more front delt involved. But if you can really just try to send signals through your chest to do the pulling of your arm across your body, I feel a crazy upper pec flex at the bottom. Or would you call that the top? I guess height-wise it's the bottom. But because instead of just ending a press here, now I'm getting all the way here. It's like my chest is running into itself, you know? So if you're ever doing a movement like this, sometimes it's good to kind of tuck your chin because you can feel your upper chest fire. So instead of just feeling it through your chest itself, getting that extra little connection sometimes make it easier to, intentionally target it. But no more talking about it. Let's just freaking make it happen. There we go. All right. Two. Ooh. Ha. Ha. Yeah. 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 Okay. Holy crap. One more of those. All right. Okay. Ha. Okay. Oh, all right. What would you do next? Pec deck. All right. Pec deck will be good. Just a heavy squeezing set, but not a heavy squeezing holding set. Slightly different. True. Oh, okay. One more. Whew. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. All right. I think let's finish with one more cable like before, and that'll be it for chest. All right. So since I'm planning on this being the last set, I have absolutely zero reason to leave anything in the tank. Now that should be your mindset every set, but the last one especially. Come on. Okay. Okay. You know what's next. Don't even have to forget to say it. Okay. Predictions
Prediction time. Am I pumped? Am I not pumped? What do we think? What do we think? Imagine Kahoot boxes right below me, and the time kind of jingle is ticking. Oh, nah, we're pumped. Solidly, effectively, and heftily freaking pumped. So what I mean by heftily pumped, that's not a description I've really ever heard another bodybuilder describe. But today was a day, chest-wise, where, as it turned out, once I kind of started moving and, hitting everything, it didn't really seem like I wanted to do all of my sets super light, squeezing, holding, burning. Since I was, pretty fresh and well rested and basically just strong, the sets kind of felt better to just heft the weight around, So I don't mean just move weight for its own sake, but I'm saying doing a good heavy set of that converging chest press to start, and then these kind of more fast-paced, pumpish sets of the bent over cable press, and then I guess the flies were pretty controlled, and then one more finisher with the cable just happened to feel really good. And whoop-de-freaking-do, here we are. So, I feel like I wish there was a way I could physically measure the volume difference of my chest, pumped versus unpumped, because this is fucking substantial, or freaking substantial. So, let's start with a good little side chest. Oh. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is really good. So, for only a little bit under 240, like 230, I think this morning was 239. Shit. This is a good full 239. So, yeah, let's see, what else is there? I don't want to miss any substantial poses. Oh man. I'm getting too tired to even hit the good ones. But either way, that is a solid near baseline bulk starting point. So I'm not really, or I can tell I'm not totally back to the full swing of things, which kind of makes me think that I'm not necessarily in the off-season phase yet, or like a full-on bulk phase yet, and that I'm more so just kind of in a interstitial period of not exactly a recomp in the conventional sense, but in a way, more so just like a refueling phase, right? Getting my strength back up, getting used to being carved up on a consistent basis rather than being flat on a consistent basis, like in this whole freaking prep phase that's behind us now. Well, this is a good lift. Like this, even just now, not from having done cardio, but just from having done a really good, hefty workout and being still kind of not totally out of breath, but definitely huffing and puffing more than normal. This is nice. Because the last, freaking months of workouts, like sure, in the moment after a set, I'm breathing heavy, but the overall workload of the workouts was much lighter. Get a pump, don't hurt yourself, leave. Was kind of the idea of, that whole prep. Whereas now it's go crazy, get a pump, leave. And then I'm leaving with a need for recovery. So a need for more food, need for more hydration, need for rest. And that's why I get this question a bit, it's always like, okay, or some twist of these words. Like, okay, what should I really be focusing on? Should I be focusing on my diet more or my sleep more or my training more? Like what's the most important? And the way that I look at it is training is definitely priority number one. So my logic there, especially as a beginner, they're all important, right? You're sitting on a stool with 3 legs, training, food, recovery. So training, food, sleep. If you take any one of those out, the chair's going to topple over. But the one, especially for the guy who's just kind of getting into the gym, which I would say demands the most attention, and they all do, but the one that I think really diversifies your benefits is training. So my logic is, if you come in, lift like a freak, you do a really good chest day relative to your strength level. 160 pound Sam, I could think I did a really crazy chest day, and I definitely did, but it's nothing compared to what I can do now. So that's why it's all relative. But a really hard workout where you leave and you're like, especially a leg day or something. Well, now you've given your body this need, right? This need to recover. And you have pretty decent signals, which you can kind of just, if you look for them, you'll start to kind of understand the just correlation between the two. Because if you train super hard, you're going to go home tired, probably tired first. And then just from now having this fatigue that's built up, your body's going to say, well, shit, we got to use some of our resources internally to fix this, to freaking get this guy back to baseline. Well, now that you've used some of those resources, or your body's starting to say, like, all right, let's go into recovery mode. Shit, man, we're running out of internal resources. I'm running low on carbs. You should eat some more food. And then you're going to be sleepier and hungrier after really good training. So you train really hard, phase 1. Well, now you're tired and you're hungry. So for the rest of the day, phase 2, you eat a bunch of food and then you get a good night's rest. Well, now you're back to phase 1 again. But now you're fed and recovered. So as long as you actually constantly bring it in your training, and you don't just go through the motions, like you really push it, you're just going back and forth through this loop. Train, eat, sleep, repeat. It's a cliche. There's t-shirts that have that, just those 4 letters right across the chest. And there's a reason all these kind of cliches are like classic phrases of you can't beat the basics, man. You can't beat a squat. Can't beat the bench press. It's because the fucking cliches and the very repeated old school stuff freaking works. So the way I look at that is the training is first. The eating is next. The sleeping is last. And then it's training again back at the bottom, So if you can think of one thing that you should really dial up your energy in, I think in the gym is not a bad place to start. And then, it's like, all right, well, now I'm really hungry. I guess I want to know how much food I'm eating. Start tracking your calories, get a macro tracker. You get there. Or you're already there and you know what I'm talking about. So let's get out of here and get back in the car. Yeah, 21%. We're good. That was good. That was very good. I felt closer to what I was describing yesterday, which not as many people tune into the leg days, but post-workout, kind of post-pump check, I was kind of getting into how I'm very excited that the more food that I'm eating and the more kind of just like strength, and not even strength, but just ability to move heavier loads comfortably, in the sense that I'm not going to hurt myself. Like if I put 4 plates on Incline Smith right now, and then, somebody had me at gunpoint, do a rep. That'd be rough. Because what am I deciding between? Either some lead or 2 ripped pecs, I assume. Because I'm not used to that much weight over these last 6 months. It would freaking hit me. So that'd be tricky. But I'm even starting to feel it just now. Only a few weeks into re-exposure to a minor calorie surplus, just around maintenance instead of a deficit. And that chest day was a little glimmer. That chest day was the sun poking its head over the horizon. Let's say you're over on the what is the horizon? East. Yeah, you're on the East Coast watching an early sunrise over the ocean. That's the sun just peeking its head over. Beautiful, right? That's great. So that 3 plate and a 25 set
That was the one that I think is really gonna, or that I can really tell I felt like I pushed it into new territory based on what I'm used to. Because I've done, machine press during this dieting phase, but that was the first really hefty set where instead of making the reps harder just by, squeezing and holding, just doing the reps themselves were difficult. And I'm really going to camp out a lot on that machine. I'm not only going to do that press, I'm still going to change it up. But that press, and sometimes I'll switch between both grips, but doing that neutral press, and maybe I might even turn my hands a little bit more so during it just so I can really get my upper chest firing, maybe a little bit more biased. It really feels good up here. Like I can tell, even just after doing those, what did I do, 3 sets? Just sitting and like kind of hunching over and feeling my chin on my chest. Up here, right over the top of my collarbones, were both extra kind of pumped up. And that's half of the reason why I'm so much of an advocate of, okay, a good lift is typically going to result in a good pump and vice versa, because you can really target specific areas of your muscles depending on how complicated they are. So if at the end of the lift my entire chest is pumped, that's probably going to tell me I hit my entire chest, So if all I did was decline press, let's say I had a decline press in that gym and all I did was like top down cable flies where I just pulled the cables down towards my waist instead of in front of my body, and that was all that I did for every set of that workout, well, my upper pecs probably wouldn't really be that pumped. They wouldn't have gotten so much work. Like, sure, your chest is your chest and it all just ties into your to the same just bundle of tendons, but you've got to hit it from every angle. So given that's the case, if I want a full chest pump, which I do, it almost requires that I hit my entire chest from as many angles as I can, or at least just make sure that I hit it in a different way than last time, right? I feel like my last few chest days have been maybe a little more mid to lower chest biased, just because I haven't put in a ton of load in a incline press. So it's definitely you're a little bit stronger pushing down than up like in an incline. So even just doing those incline presses today, I'm gonna feel it. I am gonna feel it tomorrow. I'm feeling it right now, but I'm really gonna feel it tomorrow when I wake up, which is a good thing. So planning for a post-workout meal. I'm not sure. Not super freaking sure. A grocery trip is in order, or a grocery. Do I usually just title those grocery trips? I don't really remember. But either way, a grocery video is getting to be about time. So I'll save that for either later tonight or tomorrow morning, one of the two, and then kind of load up on everything. I'm already out of ground beef, but I've got a bunch of turkey left, so post-workout meal will definitely consist of about 8 to 12 ounces of that Costco turkey chunk. So 12 would be about 75 grams of protein, but it's already noon. The only thing I had was like a small bowl of oatmeal before that workout, just so I could run off of something. So I think that might be a good amount. And then I'll couple that with some sort of carb. So whether that's whether I just go oatmeal again, which I do not mind just having oatmeal almost all the time. You call me crazy, or something else. I could do some minute rice. I'll figure it out. But either way, a meal that will consist of around 80 grams of carbs, 50 or 60 grams of protein, 10 to 20 grams of fats. That's what I'm looking for. So I think all I gotta do is get home and make that shit freaking happen. So I'll splice this guy together. And yeah, that was a good workout. And they will only get wilder from here. I got to get an air conditioning unit set up in there, or at least, I don't know, I got to figure something out. Because once it starts getting hot, there's no cooling. I mean, I've got a heating system, so it's awesome in the winter. But once it starts heating up, I got to figure out a way to cool it down in there. And I don't want like 50 fans going on. That's what Chris has over at his gym down in Florida. And it's a freaking oven in there. Like, if I did this exact same workout down in the Bumstead gym, I'd be freaking drenched in sweat. So, to each their own. Let's put it like that. But yeah, nothing else to say. So I will freaking see you tomorrow for either back or arms. Either back or arms. Part of me thinks that I want to do arms before back, because then if my biceps are residually fatigued from the arm day, well, it doesn't matter, because I'm not trying to work my biceps during a back day. But if I do back before arms, then my biceps might be a little tender from the back day, and they might already be in a compromised state before I really hit them. I'll see. Either way, I guess we'll figure it out once I get the title. It's either going to be back or arms or some combination of the two. But yeah, that's all I got. So I'll see you tomorrow.